Hi, so part of being subscribed to this channel is having to deal with my occasional hyperfixation ideas. So because I'm getting obsessed with the Warriors again, I've decided to make a video talking about what their names reference. Of course, there's probably no real rhyme or reason to many of the names, but this is just for and giggles because doing stuff like this is fun and stimulating to the brain. And you also discover some dark stuff. There is no point. I'm just bored.
Warriors, come out to play.
So people always talk about problematic faves, but what they list off is never even problematic in the slightest. It's just the result of being chronically online or terminally online. What's the correct phrase? The Warriors is an actual problematic fave. Both the movie and the game, which I don't think counts for the game because it's just emulating the vibes of the movie, but whatever. And then you look more into it and find out the movie and game is the toned down version. There's a lot of differences between the book and the movie, so I won't be focusing on the book because certain characters in the movie just aren't in the book and vice versa. Like characters like Ajax, Swan, and Mercy are not in the book, or they're fused from two characters in the novel. There's also the fact that the book focuses more on how messed up this lifestyle is because it hammers home that a lot of the gang members are teenagers and young and have no direction other than gang life. It was even written because the author hated the depiction of gangs in West Side Story. A lot of the original book criticizes these toxic rites of passage with these characters' versions of masculinity and what it means to be a man, which is pissing contests and another phrase that rhymes with hexual amalt. The ending is also a bit more sad because it's like, yeah, okay. Do you want a hug? Do you need a hug, baby? You need a hug and a bowl of Cocoa Puffs, and I can deliver. The movie focuses more on the cool factor, but there is a scene in the movie that low-key references the book's initial themes, and that's the scene on the train station, which even as a kid was always my favorite because I understood what was happening. Did I even explain what the Warriors is about? This chapter is called What is the Warriors, and I didn't even explain it. So The Warriors is a 1979 action, crime, thriller? Based on the novel by Sol Uric. It follows the Warriors as they try to escape back to their home turf of Coney Island after being blamed for the death of an infamous old head at a massive gathering. Along the way, they have to face off against a bunch of different gangs in order to get home. A lot of the characters were changed and had different names for the movies. So I think we talked in this intro enough to seem professional, so let's talk about their names.
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso.
Let's start off with the boy, the baby, my schnookums. I love you. I'm starting with Rembrandt because he's the easiest because he's named after Rembrandt, the artist. Let me stop because there's probably folks who don't know. Basically, Rembrandt was a Dutch painter, kind of renowned in his time because he dabbled in a lot of different styles of art compared to other artists in his time. He's considered one of the artists for the Dutch golden age of art and was involved with Baroque art, which is basically Rococo's goth girlfriend.
She passed away? Oh. All right.
Cleon is named Cleon. I know. Shocking revelation, right? There's actually two Cleons. One is General Cleon from the Peloponnesian War, who was Pericles' main political rival. I only know Pericles because he's a character in Civ 6, and I only played one match against him, and it convinced me that the Greeks are f***ing annoying in that game. Modern day Greeks, you're fine, you're cool, it's just these guys. Anyway, General Cleon is kind of seen as a demagogue, which is basically a warmonger, but I think we should reintroduce demagogue into our general vocabulary because that sounds so much more fun to say. When Pericles died, Cleon transformed himself into a symbol of democracy because he paraded himself as someone who cared for the poorer folks in Athens at the time, but he's one of the many reasons why folks think that the peace with Sparta failed. Now you can kind of see how Cleon fits into this. Maybe not word for word, but you know, Cleon can be read that way in comparison to Virgil, sort of. The other Cleon is from Greek myth. This Cleon was a simple fisherman who was enlisted to help fight against Troy by King Nereus, but was killed by Polydamas. Troy being the police that Cyrus wanted all the gangs to fight against, King Nereus being Cyrus, and Polydamas being Luther. Indirectly-ish, but still.
You just triggered my fight or flight response. And I am a flightless bird.
So Swan is a swan. I know, we're learning such mind-blowing facts today. Swan is a pretty boy and swans are pretty birds, but birds are actually spawns of Satan, which is wisdom my sister has been trying to show me since we were kids. Swans are the most evil of them all, right next to geese. True fact, Untitled Goose Game is based on a true story about a town that was terrorized by a goose. They didn't mention any names out of respect for the victims of this horrible tragedy. But yeah, swans are gangster as hell, especially when they feel like their own is in danger, and that applies to Swan to a T. His level-headed nature and his looks will give him the appearance of being a graceful gang member, but he will prove you wrong.
Can I get a please before you treat me like a common whore? Oh my god. I'm gonna do it, but still, let's have a little decorum.
Vermin is another easy one because basically refers to wild animals or people who cause problems. The wiki describes him as a little pessimistic, but I think because the actor Terry Mikos gave him some of that class clown juice, his funny nature overshadowed that. Additionally, I can see him kind of taking on the name Vermin as a sort of gotcha for folks who would call him that anyway. It's like reclaiming the insult and turning it into something that gives you power. Kind of like a Fat Amy thing.
What's your name?
Fat Amy.
You call yourself Fat Amy?
Yeah, so twig bitches like you don't do it behind my back.
Please, put your penis away.
No.
I'm not gonna ask you again. Put your penis away.
I am who I am.
So what I discovered is that Ajax is the combination of two Ajaxes, who I think both fought in the Greek War. Mainly Ajax the Great and Ajax the Lesser. Literally the most humiliating thing ever. Like, if there were two Hexleys and I was Hexley the Lesser, that'd be my Amy Dunn moment right there. Ajax the Great goes along with the fact that Ajax is one of the better fighters of the warriors, and the Great is one of the heroes of the Greek War. Ajax the Lesser, on the other hand, falls in line with Ajax's floozy and assaulter nature, because while Ajax the Great was out there being great, Ajax the Lesser was like, I think I'm gonna assault Cassandra. Of course, his name could also be a reference to the cleaning product Ajax, but I don't care.
How are we supposed to do this? Are we like, which way do you go? Up and down, girl. But I've seen people do it left or right.
That's not the right way.
Who said?
Jesus.
Cochise is named after Cochise, who was an Apache chief that led the Chiricahua Apache and stood against the bullshit that was Manifest Destiny. You know, that section of white history where white people claimed they were entitled to take someone's land? No, not that time. No, not that time either. No, sometime before that. Cochise and his tribe had a deal at some point with the Mexican government for food, and the Mexican government was like, we changed our mind. And that resulted in the raids which Cochise led. He also led the defenses against the attempts to capture many of his people. Cochise most likely started calling himself that because he sort of vied with the beliefs of native folks. And I say sort of because I feel like he most likely goes off the version that Hollywood at times would put out about native folks, especially during a time like the 70s. Or he could know. Who knows?
Do I give a fuck? No, not one. How many fucks do I give? 0. Exactly. So therefore your comment is irrelevant.
Snow is named for snow. From a goth standpoint, snow represents winter, and winter means death. But kind of like Wendy from Gravity Falls, it basically means that snow is cool under pressure. Of course, if you watch Berlizzi's playthrough of the Warriors, snow equals death is kind of fitting.
Snow is an animal. Oh my god. Look at, bro, Snow is such a demon, bro. He's fighting actual ghouls and goblins and ghosts. Nobody's here, bro. Why are you squaring up at me, the gamer? Put your fist down. Help me with this tag. And shit's nothing, Snow throw. Look at Snow. Look at Snow. Oh my god!
He's pretty much the blue to Ajax's red when it comes to fighting. There's a lot you can take away from Snow's position, but he's essentially peace and tranquility within the Warriors. And he's most likely the one Swan's gonna appoint to be his second in command.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in. Have you ever seen me without this stupid hat on?
Cowboy is a cowboy. What else do you want me to say? Okay. So cowboys represent independence and standing by your beliefs. One aspect I think fits cowboy perfectly is the theme of nonconformity, and not in Hollywood manly man type of way where the only thing you're not conforming to is wearing a suit and eating caviar. I'm talking about folks that were pushed aside by Western norms, like people of color, queer folks, immigrants, and the poor. The latter of which falls in line with the original theme of the Little Warriors novel. Even though the movie doesn't paint the movie with these themes heavily, it's still in there. Cowboys are known as folks that didn't conform to societal norms and laws. There's also the aspect of just being an individual, which plays into why Cowboy loves his hat so much. Frankly, if he didn't have it, he'd just look like a twink version of Ajax.
Breaking news. I have gotten the evidence that I need to show your wife.
Fox mostly corresponds with fox as in the animal, who are generally marked as sly creatures because of how they operate in nature. They're known to be intelligent, which falls in line with Fox and his role in the Warriors as the scout with some high street smarts. Foxes are also known as symbols of good fortune, which would have played into his character had he stayed the main character of the movie like it was planned, since he was the one who actually saw Luther shoot Cyrus. Even though he doesn't really witness Luther friend Cleon and the Warriors, he even dies before he could actually put two and two together as to why everyone is chasing him down. He probably thought since the truce was over, everyone was fair game.
Remind me of your gender again? Right, you're a boy. These are for girls only.
Mercy is another easy one because we all know what mercy means, but in relation to her character, it can be easy to think it doesn't make sense. I think it connects to her appearance in the book though. In the book, Mercy's equivalent is actually unnamed, and she ends up being assaulted by the Dominators on top of some guy's corpse, and that's the end of her character. You could argue that by giving her a name and letting her have a chance to be a character, she's been given mercy. Her individual storyline also relates to the novel's themes and the disillusionment of the poor in the story. It's why she lives life on a whim, because to her, it all doesn't matter in the end. And Swan echoes these same sentiments by the end of the movie, the two even thinking about running away from it all. Both growing to have a compassion for each other and what the other is going through. Because remember when Swan was really judgmental for how Mercy lived her life? Like, bro, you were in a whole ass gang. Now I was debating on adding Ash since he's a creation of the video game, but I decided, why not? His name is kind of messed up because like Ash and Ashes of the Dead. Now I know he doesn't die by fire, but the mission segment where he died is covered in fire. One of the destroyers starts the invasion by burning a hot dog stand. When Cleon and Swan find Ash's body, they're immediately trapped and the destroyers try burning them alive. Then Cleon and Vermin fight Virgil in a burning warehouse and end up burning him alive. So Ash can represent the destroyer's entire presence in Coney becoming nothing but ashes. And if you want to view it in a good versus evil type of way, then you can think of Ash being a symbolism for rebirth and purification. So in a way, Ash's death led to Coney being rebuilt as complete warrior's turf and whatnot.
Ooh, that brother's floating in the air. How could his hands do this?
Cyrus's name actually goes back to one of the inspiration for the Warriors novel, which is Anabasis. The story centers on a bunch of Greek mercenaries that are hired by Cyrus the Younger to help him claim the throne of Persia from his brother. As you can guess, Cyrus ends up being killed and the mercenaries end up stranded in Persia. In the novel, Yurg changed his name to Ishmael, but the movies changed it back to Cyrus.
Feel the testosterone, I want to go to war! I want a lightsaber!
Even though the spelling is different, the only thing I found related to the Maasai are the Maasai people. This is the interesting aspect of it. So in Maasai culture, some folks worship a deity known as the Enkai, or Ngai, who is known for their dual nature, the black god and the red god. The black god is known to be benevolent, while the red god is known to be vengeful. Does it sound familiar? Cause to me, it fits Cyrus and Maasai perfectly. Cyrus represents benevolence since he wanted to share an opportunity with all of the gangs, constantly giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maasai represents the vengeful side since when Cyrus dies, Maasai becomes the new leader of the Rifts and becomes vengeful, wanting anyone responsible dead. Even after everything, he shows no desire in retrying the truce, since the game shows us that he was against the idea the entire time.
You did this for what? Why not? Why? Why not?
Now for Luther, it isn't so much his name as much as it's just the general aesthetic of him. The only Luther that makes sense when you're looking for a related name is Martin Luther, who was essentially one of the church's most despised figures, and not in the fun way. He was an anti-Semite, and he wanted to drive out Jewish people, and his beliefs are believed to be one of the factors in creating Nazi ideology. Personally, I don't like this one, but yeah, you can technically make the case that Luther had a hand in getting the Warriors persecuted against the other gangs based on lies, which is how anti-Semite ideology operates. You can even see Cyrus as a stand-in for the church and having beliefs that Luther is strongly against, as we see throughout both the movie and the game. But I don't like that really, so the focus of Luther is really just what he represents. Cyrus wanted cooperation and teamwork. Luther wants chaos and has an every man for himself attitude. He's kind of the Joker figure, and it's something that's only made better by the fact that Luther is not in the book. Cyrus is actually killed by all the other gangs because they believe he set them all up to get arrested. Instead, the movie creates Luther, a bringer of destruction that just causes mayhem wherever he goes. He leads a gang called the Rogues, their turf is Hell's Kitchen, and he even drives a hearse. He's just collecting bodies, whether by his hand or his actions.
Sir? Sir? Sir, are you there?
I wasn't really going to include him since he's not really a character, but just a lackey, but since he's one of the rogues from the movie that actually has a name, I decided to add him. So Xcropsy is actually a Staten Island slang term for someone who is creepy in a Machine Gun Kelly type of way. It was a term that became heavily involved with this guy named Andre Rand, who was a child kidnapper and potential child murderer who committed his crimes during the 1970s. Kind of like how Cochise was from Harlem but wanted to run with the Coney Warriors. I could see Xcropsy coming from Staten Island to Manhattan and using the name in the same sort of vein as Vermin. But his is more along the lines of trying to capitalize on the fear that Andre Rand instilled in many children and parents during that time. Just taking out the E.
Fuck your life! Bing bang!
So this one is completely from the wiki because Thurman is actually only named in the game. In the movie, he's just called Baseball Fury. His name comes from Thurman Munson, who played for the Yankees from 1969 up until his death in 1979. Funny tidbit though, the name Thurman also means defended by Thor or Thor's wrath. And technically, Thurman's got a little Mjolnir of his own.
Beachy waves? Like, it's not the vibe. Stop!
Lastly, we have Virgil. The most obvious being Virgil from the Divine Comedy. Of course, a character like that, you'd expect some katana-wielding scholar with slick-back white hair who goes on the occasional power trip. But it mostly relates to Virgil being the one to guide Dante into hell. But in this instance, Virgil is not a guide looking to enlighten, but a guide looking to inflict pain. You can see Cleon's time in the Destroyers as purgatory, since most depictions of it are centered on stagnation. The night that Virgil sets up Cleon and Vermin is the gateway to the hell of running a gang and dealing with enemies so close to the gate. Okay, so in hindsight, it did not actually take so long to record. It might take long to edit, but hopefully what you guys saw is great. Like I said, I am just on a binge right now, so it should definitely be gone by the time I release the second video. Which is going to be a clan sorting video and even though I already set like Until Dawn, since Until Dawn is like shorter, I'll just get the Warriors one done because I gotta want to do something interesting for that one, and then I'll do Until Dawn. And you could just see the Warriors clan video as like, you know, a little detour and stuff like that. In the meantime, why not in the comments say who your favorite warrior is and why? Because mine is Rembrandt for obvious reasons, and Snow because I love Snow. I kind of like all of them. I'm not gonna lie, I like all of them. But yeah, Rembrandt, Snow, Ajax a little, but he's just kind of like, bro, why are you so fucking dumb? I think it only makes sense that I ended up liking the Warriors because I fucking love Saints Row and it's kind of the same vibes when you think about it. But yeah, anyways, I've been Miss Hexley and I shall see you all later, so.
My God. These bitches gay. Good for them. Good for them.
Now think about what you've done.
Maybe we'll get to waste a few heads along the way. You just soldier and keep your mouth shut.
She's so fine, she done pissing me off. How are you that fine, f***?